My guess, right off the bat,
Mhm.
it's probably going to be split between Vince and Spillane and Devin. That's what I'm guessing.
So who's the starter then?
Is there technically...
Yes.
Is there that big of a difference?
Yes. For today, yes.
Okay.
Put a line in the sand, baby.
Because like, what if Vince is out there on the first snap, but he's playing 30%?
Who's your starting? When I say your starters, you gotta have it, guys. The guys who are gonna play
Opening
the majority
day,
of the
snap
time.
one.
Yes. Who's your guys? When we say, hey, we are opening up against the Buffalo Bills, who are your starting inside linebackers?
Who do I want? I want Buddy Johnson.
Okay.
I'm with some of the people in the chat.
Okay.
I think it's going to be Spillane, though. I just have that feeling that what he was doing last year before the injury wasn't as much of an outlier as we may think based off his play against Cleveland.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. And it could be a nice little dynamic tandem with Bush. I mean, if you get how Spillane was playing in those, whatever it was, 6, 7, 8 games when Bush was gone, with Bush, that could be pretty lethal.
It definitely could.
I don't think they are over top of each other too much either. Because I think Spillane could be that thumper that Vince was, but I think he's a little bit better in pass coverage. Obviously, he's not the thumper that Vince is, but he could at least bring that to the table. Where him and Bush could be kind of nice. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Vince will get time, maybe 20, 30%, but I'm just feeling Spillane for whatever reason.
Okay. And Coolio, shout out to you and we appreciate the support, also shares that sentiment. They also say Bush and Buddy gonna be some dogs. Much love, y'all. We appreciate that. Rod Dollar. It's a lot of people. Rod Dollar says Vince and Bush. Now for me, I do like the Bush and Buddy Johnson pairing. I think that they would complement
I would love
each
for
other
that
really
just to happen
well.
right off the bat.
My biggest thing is I just don't think Buddy's going to be ready. It's tough. It is very, very tough to come in day one and be the starter. It's tough to do that at the NFL level, man. So that's the only reason why I don't think it'd be him. I honestly, man, even though I would prefer it be Devin and Vince, I feel like it's going to be Spillane and Devin. Similar to what you said, with Vince, he's limited athletically. We know that he's not fast and he's not the best in coverage. But the thing that he brings to the table that none of those guys bring is that physical nature, that smash mouth ability, and his confidence in the defense. And what do I mean by the confidence in the defense? He knows this playbook inside and out. So when you watch him on the field, watch who initiates conversation. Watch who initiates communication. It's Vince. Not Devin, not Spillane. It's Vince. Now watch when Vince is removed from that scenario and see how the communication goes or the lack thereof at time. And how we also see just the lack of physical nature inside. That's my concern in terms of if we go Spillane. I do think Spillane is the better athlete. And I do think that Spillane plays really well. But that physicalness is definitely missing when you take Vince out that lineup. So that's the part where I just like, I would love if Vince was more athletic because then you could get that, but he's not. And with the way the NFL is, teams will utilize that against you. Now we're in that unique situation because we know teams want to spread you out because it's more of a passing league now. But in the AFC North, we know that teams want to still run the ball. When you talk about Cleveland, when you talk about Baltimore, definitely they want to run the rock. So when you try to go with just the pure athlete speed combination, you open yourself up for some pretty tough situations from a running game standpoint. And that's the part where I'm just like, I wanted to be Vince, but yeah, I feel like it's going to be Spillane just because, well, I'll tell y'all as well, I got to see some of these pairings.
Whoa, this is the news we wanted. We were kind of afraid to ask. We don't want to get you in trouble.
I did get to see some of these pairings. And these pairings kind of, they kind of coincide with what I just played out there.
Wow, so I made a nice guess.
But I can't say who was 100% there or not, but they did coincide with some of the things that we've been spitballing right now, if y'all can catch my drift. So that's the other part, baby. Yeah.
Now, the stuff that you talk about with Vince, the positives that he would bring to the table, it is important, right?
No, for a fact. I mean, we saw that late in the season, right?
So as if he plays 20 or 30%, is that enough to at least get a little bit of that? But then when you're not on the field, you're just probably not getting that at all then.
That's the thing.
Because he's not giving that to you from the bench.
No question. No, you can't get it from the bench, man. It's one of those things you have to be out there. But this is where you hope that Devin can take that next step. Because if Devin can, then he becomes that new vocal leader, the guy to get everybody aligned, the guy to make sure that, hey, whatever we're calling, if we're all right, if we're all wrong, that means we're all right because we're all on the same page. No Vince, you don't get that because not everybody is taking what Devin says as gospel, right? And what I mean is this. So if it's a 2x2 set, meaning we got 2 receivers on this side, 2 receivers on that side. Okay. Hey, Deke, we're going to be playing cover 4. Deke, if they go from 2x2 to 3x1, we're going to go to cover 3. Guy starts the motion. All right. He's right at the quarterback. This is about midway. How we playing that, Deke? Are we playing cover 3 or are we playing cover 4? We said if it was 2x2, it was cover 4. We said if it goes to 3x1, we go to 3. But he's in the middle of the field. Ball's about to get snapped. What are we doing? Ball snap.
I was going to say, this communication has to happen right before that.
It has to happen like right now. And we have to be on the same page. It can't be what you doing? I'm 3. Oh, 4, 4, 4.
You got to look to one guy to say it.
Exactly. And Vince has been that guy. Vince, even when Shazier was here, Vince was still that guy that, all right, until Shay caught up to it mentally, Vince was that guy. So when you take that away, those are the things that you deal with. And you don't feel them necessarily on first and second down, but possession downs. When it's sub package ball and now we dealing with strength changes. Now we're dealing with different movements and motions. How are we playing this? What are you thinking? I don't know. Ball snap. Like it happens just like that. And that's the part where if Devin takes that next step mentally, well, we're good. I feel like, man, he can make up for everything else athletically. But if he doesn't take that, that puts you in bad situations. And that's the part where I'm just like, no Vince out there with him makes me nervous because we saw what that looked like at the end of the year when obviously Devin was down, but we saw when you don't have that beacon of communication right there, it gets chaotic and it doesn't look well. It doesn't perform the same way. Guys start playing a little bit more passive. You can't be as aggressive because you're not 100% certain.
So how does he take that next step? Is it simply this where he's getting paired with Spilane and it's almost like the Paul George scenario with Kawhi Leonard? Now that he's not out there, it's like, it's all on Paul George. So you got to figure out the way as opposed to being passive and saying, oh, Kawhi, you're the guy. So if Bush is with Spillane, it's like, Bush, you got to do this now.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, man. That plays a part. The practice reps play a part. The biggest thing that is hurting Devin, and I was actually, because I've been watching film on him from last season, is just the lack of reps. You think about like, last year was supposed to be that big growth year for him, right? Where you played your rookie season, you go through your bumps and bruises. Now you get that second full year under your belt and you don't take off early on. I mean, if you're fortunate, great, but most of the time it's more Devin White-like, right? And what does that mean? You're still good throughout the season, but towards the end of that second season,
you're hitting your stride.
And we always say towards the end of the season, if you're a rookie, by the time you get to week 12 and 13, you're not a rookie anymore. You're in your second year because of how long you've played. So typically by the end of that second season, you're the equivalent of a third year veteran because of how much ball you've played. So you've learned and seen a ton. He didn't get that though. And that's the part where you just kind of like, it's hard to expect that to come from just practice reps because in practice, well, Devin, his OTAs, you're going to go in clips of 4, clips of 6 on minicamp day. And that's just once a week. You know what I mean? And tops. And other than that, you're subbing out. So you don't even get to go through the feeling of being frantic, the feeling of being fatigued, the feeling of being caught out of whack. And that's the part where it's just hard to simulate that. So I anticipate him still having these growing pains early on.
Damn.
But I do think by the mid-season, he'll start to hit that little bit of stride. But that's the part where you really can't make up for that because you don't get that without being in stadium.
So we could have a scenario where Vince just keeps finding his way back onto the field.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Not necessarily based off Spilane's play, but it may just be more because the communication's jacked up.
Absolutely, bro. And you have to have that
hilarious.
Part, man. You have to have that part, bro.
We're trying to get another guy in there. We draft Buddy Johnson. All of a sudden, Vince Williams, week 4, he's playing like 60, 70% of the snaps.
But the thing is, you would rather have, and this is coach's mentality, and not just in Pittsburgh, this is pretty much anywhere. You would rather have a guy that's a little bit more limited athletically, but you know he knows what to do, than having a guy that's a great athlete, but mentally is going to have mistakes, because those mistakes in the NFL, that's touchdowns. Those are big plays. You can't have a lot of those. I mean, typically in a game, if we play in this game and it's me and you together, we shouldn't have more than 2 mental errors between the both of us. Like, we should be locked in, and that's 60 plus plays. If you're not getting that, like, that sets you up for failure, because if I make a mistake and I'm in coverage, it's a touchdown. If I make a mistake on this run fit, that's a 30-yard, 40-yard gain. These are like explosive field flipping, momentum flipping plays. So it's very significant, man.
And it didn't seem like, you correct me if I'm wrong, Spillane had those lapses.
Correct.
It's just that he doesn't bring the leadership communication for everyone else. So we're basically in a pickle then, right?
Yes.
Because Devin Bush is easily the most talented. Spillane, less limited than Vince. A little bit better in pass coverage, maybe not as good as run stopping, but maybe could be the better complement with Bush. But Vince brings that leadership and a little bit better the run stopping. Yeah. So yeah, it's
but Vince also brings the best rushing out of those guys as well, because as much as we talk about these guys in coverage, I personally, watching tape, don't think that any of them are as good in coverage as Vince is as a pass rusher. Meaning, when Vince rushes a running back, it's a 95% chance that he's going to win, meaning he's either going to hit the quarterback or sack the quarterback. None of those guys, Devin Bush included in coverage right now, are winning at a 95% rate right now. As much as we want Devin Bush to be that, I think he can grow into that. But even last year, watching those games,
Noah Fant had his number.
He was not there. He was not there. So that's the other part where you talk about that pickle. Is like, well, how much are we valuing them in coverage versus him as a rusher? That could change your perspective on possession downs, third downs, and dime package and stuff like that as well, man.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Bro. How many sacks? He had like 8 sacks the one season.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, he I don't think he ever got to 10, but he flirted with it twice, though. He was close 2 times back-to-back years. From
the sound of it, then, you want him on the field. Is that it, then? Are we kind of right with saying Spillane maybe 50, 60%, maybe even 70%, and then Vince 30%? Just as we sit right here, right now?
Probably off the top. Or maybe even skew it a little bit where Spillane is out there a little bit more. 65, 70 almost, you know?
Yeah. And then Vince would be at like 30.
Yeah.
Because those impact plays that we saw early in last season and that you're talking about right now, it's getting me like amped up. Like Vince rushing the passer, Vince just blowing up the running back in the backfield. Yeah. We love those. Like those
absolutely we do.
Those are somewhat game-changing type of plays, momentum-shifting plays. So we don't want to miss out on that completely. Honestly, though, going way back to the beginning, if Buddy Johnson was ready, I mean, that's who I want. I just want Buddy Johnson, Devin Bush. I want to see if those guys could be the future.
Yeah, he's the one. And a lot of people in the chat are very high on him as well in terms of Buddy. The biggest thing is just the stuff that we just highlighted mentally for Buddy. Just imagine now it's not even as simple of, hey, man, all right, if it goes from 2x2 to 3x1, we're going to check to this. When you're talking about a rookie, it's, hey, make sure you're aligned in a 30 technique. Okay, what's the 30? That's over the guard. Okay. Well, what happens if they shift to this? If they shift to 3x1, go to a bird technique, what's that? Oh, now you're in a 50. You're stacking this tight end because, remember, 3x1, we cheat to that. That's what rookies have to worry about.
I'm glad I don't have to worry about this in Madden.
You know what I mean? Like, they can't even worry about what their assignment is. They got to worry about where they're aligned first, because that's going to put them in the correct position to even give them a chance to do the assignment. And that's before we get to a check, a shift, a motion, and that's all pre-snap. What happens when it's post-snap? And they started out 3x1, but this guy runs across the field and that back comes over here and makes it essentially 4 receivers to one side. That's a whole nother set of rules. So as a rookie, a young linebacker, man, your head is spinning. That's when we talked about Devin Bush's rookie year. And it's like, well, he doesn't look as good. He doesn't look as fast. Like, bro, because his head, he's not playing ball. He's just trying not to mess up right now.
Shazier too.
Yeah, absolutely. Same concept, man.
With Buddy, the one thing we talked about when we drafted him is he's almost a combo of Spillane and Vince Williams, because we saw whenever he was rushing the passer and getting between the tackles, you're like, he reminds you of Vince a little bit. But we thought his covers was pretty solid in college too, to the likes of Spillane. That's why if he was ready, I think it'd be pretty nice to at least see right off the bat. But
it would.
May not be the case this year.